Hello, sleepy friends. Tonight, we'll drift into the steady, rhythmic world of lighthouses, places where light meets darkness, where land meets sea, and where solitude becomes something beautiful rather than lonely. Lighthouses have a way of calming everything around them. They stand on rocky shores, cliff edges, and isolated islands like patient guardians, like beacons of steadiness in an ever-changing world. And as their lights sweep across the water, they turn the night into something navigable, a seascape made of pattern and promise. In this story, we'll wander through some of the most soothing, surprising truths about lighthouses, how each beam rotates with perfect timing, how storms pass around their sturdy walls, and why coastal nights feel safer, steadier, and strangely comforting when a lighthouse keeps its watch. You'll learn how lighthouse keepers lived in rhythmic solitude, why the foghorn's deep voice carries across miles of ocean, and how the smallest details of lighthouse life hold stories of dedication and quiet courage. All of it told quietly, slowly, so your mind can settle as gently as a boat finding harbor. So, wherever you are tonight, beneath warm blankets, beneath dim light, or simply letting your eyes rest, take a slow breath in and let it fall gently out. Feel the air around you grow calm. Feel your thoughts drift outward like ripples on still water, expanding and fading into peace. If you enjoy these sleepy journeys, you are welcome to like, comment, or share them with someone who might need a little peace tonight. It helps others find their way here, to this quiet coastal path with you. For now, let the world grow hushed, let the night grow soft, and let the gentle truth of lighthouses carry you slowly into rest. Lighthouses begin with a simple purpose: to guide ships safely home. But their story is much deeper than function alone. Each lighthouse is built where land and sea meet in their most dramatic conversations, where waves crash against rocks, where fog rolls in thick and blinding, where currents shift unpredictably beneath the surface. These are places of power and danger, and lighthouses stand there willingly, transforming peril into protection. The first lighthouses were little more than fires burning on hilltops, tended by watchers who kept the flames alive through long, dark nights. Ancient mariners would look for that distant glow, steering their vessels away from hidden dangers toward the promise of safe harbor. Over centuries, these simple fires evolved into towers of stone and brick, into structures designed not just to hold light, but to amplify it, to send it farther across the water than any fire alone could reach. Inside each lighthouse, at its very heart, is the lamp room. This is where the magic happens. In older lighthouses, the light source was often a flame, fueled by whale oil, then kerosene, glowing steadily behind thick glass panels. Around this flame sat the lens, a marvel of engineering and artistry. The most famous of these lenses is called a Fresnel lens, invented in the early 1800s by a French physicist who understood how to bend light in extraordinary ways. A Fresnel lens is not a single piece of glass, but a collection of concentric prisms, each one angled precisely to capture light and redirect it. When you look at one up close, it resembles a giant glass beehive made of hundreds of individual pieces fitted together with astonishing precision. Some Fresnel lenses stand taller than a person, weighing thousands of pounds, yet they're designed to rotate smoothly on a bed of mercury or ball bearings, turning with such balance that even a child could push them. When the lamp is lit and the lens begins to turn, something miraculous happens. The light doesn't simply glow, it pulses. It sweeps across the ocean in a steady, rhythmic pattern. Flash, pause, each rotation timed to the second. Every lighthouse has its own signature pattern, its own tempo. Some flash once every 5 seconds. Others sweep continuously, their beam making a slow, graceful arc across the water. Mariners learn these patterns by heart, able to identify which lighthouse they're seeing simply by counting the time between flashes. There's something deeply soothing about this rhythm, the predictability of it, the steadiness. Night after night, year after year, the light turns at the same pace, never hurrying, never stopping. It doesn't falter in storms. It doesn't dim in fog. It simply continues, rotating with mechanical patience, offering its message to anyone who needs it. You are not alone. There is a way through. The light from a lighthouse can travel astonishing distances. On a clear night, a powerful lighthouse beam can be seen from 20 miles away or more, its glow appearing on the horizon like a distant star touching the sea. This is because the lens focuses all the light into a narrow beam, concentrating it into something strong enough to pierce darkness, fog, and rain. Sailors describe seeing a lighthouse beam cut through thick fog like a sword, appearing suddenly, brilliantly, before fading back into grey. But lighthouses don't just serve ships far out at sea. They also guide smaller vessels closer to shore, fishing boats returning home, pleasure craft seeking safe passage, even swimmers or walkers on the beach who glance up and feel oriented by that steady, sweeping light. The lighthouse becomes a landmark, a point of reference, a way to know where you are, even when everything else feels uncertain. Each lighthouse is also a work of architecture shaped by its environment. Coastal lighthouses are often painted in bold stripes, red and white, black and white, making them visible even in daylight. Island lighthouses stand alone, their towers rising from rocky outcrops surrounded by churning water. Some lighthouses are squat and sturdy, built low to withstand fierce winds. Others are tall and elegant, their towers reaching high to cast light over greater distances. The materials used to build lighthouses speak to their permanence: stone, brick, cast iron, concrete. These are structures meant to last, to outlive the storms that batter them, to remain standing long after the hands that built them have gone. Walking around the base of an old lighthouse, you can feel the weight of time in the stones, the salt air etched into every surface, the layers of paint applied over decades, each one a small act of care and maintenance. Inside, lighthouses are often surprisingly small. A spiral staircase winds upward, narrow and steep, each step worn smooth by countless footsteps. Climbing these stairs is like ascending into another world. With each turn, the sound of the ocean grows a little louder, the wind a little stronger. Windows offer glimpses of the view outside, the water growing more expansive as you rise. And then, finally, you reach the top, the lamp room, where the lens sits waiting, where the light will soon begin its nightly vigil. Lighthouse keepers once lived in small dwellings attached to or near the tower. Their lives were defined by routine, by the necessity of keeping the light burning no matter what. They trimmed wicks, cleaned lenses, wound clockwork mechanisms that turned the lens, and kept meticulous logs of weather, ships sighted, and any unusual events. Theirs was a life of solitude and responsibility, of understanding that their vigilance could mean the difference between life and death for strangers they would never meet. Even now, in an age of automation and GPS, lighthouses continue their work. Most are automated, their lights controlled by timers and sensors, their lenses turning without human hands to guide them. But the principle remains the same. A light in the darkness, a rhythm in the chaos, a steady presence that says, "I am here. You are safe." Tonight, as you imagine a lighthouse standing on a distant shore, picture its light beginning to glow as dusk settles over the water. See the lens start to turn, slow and deliberate, sending its beam out across the waves. Watch as it sweeps past rocks and tide pools, across the dark expanse of ocean, touching the edge of the horizon before rotating back again. And as you watch, let your own thoughts begin to turn with that same gentle rhythm. Let the light guide you not through water, but through the quiet waters of sleep, steady, patient, endlessly reliable. Light is the language of clear nights, but when fog rolls in thick and heavy, light alone cannot guide ships safely. This is when lighthouses speak in a different voice, deep, resonant, and unmistakable. This is when the foghorn sounds. The foghorn is one of the most distinctive sounds in all of nature and human creation combined. It's a low, mournful note that carries across miles of water, cutting through fog, wind, and rain with surprising clarity. Some describe it as lonely, others find it comforting, but everyone who hears it recognizes it instantly. A sound that belongs to the edge of the world, where sea meets sky and visibility fades to nothing. Fog forms when warm, moist air meets cooler surfaces, usually the cold ocean water near coastlines. As the air cools, the moisture condenses into tiny droplets that hang suspended, creating a thick grey blanket that can reduce visibility to just a few feet. On foggy mornings, the world becomes soft and indistinct. Shapes blur, distances disappear. Even familiar landmarks vanish into whiteness. For ships navigating these waters, fog is one of the most dangerous conditions they can encounter. This is why lighthouses develop fog signals, devices designed to produce sounds loud enough and low enough to travel through dense fog. Early fog signals were simple bells, rung by hand or mechanized to strike at regular intervals. Later, horns powered by compressed air or steam created much louder, more powerful sounds. The classic foghorn produces a note so deep it's felt as much as heard, vibrating in your chest, resonating in your bones. Each lighthouse has its own fog signal pattern, just as it has its own light pattern. One lighthouse might sound a single blast every 30 seconds. Another might give 2 short blasts, followed by a pause. These patterns are carefully documented on nautical charts, so sailors can identify which lighthouse they're near even when they can't see it. In thick fog, a ship's crew might stand on deck, listening intently, counting the seconds between blasts, triangulating their position by ear alone. The sound of a foghorn carries differently depending on conditions. On calm days, it travels far and clear, its deep note rolling across the water like a voice calling from miles away. On windy days, the sound scatters and shifts, sometimes seeming to come from different directions as the wind pushes it around. Temperature and humidity affect how sound travels too, sometimes creating strange acoustic effects where the foghorn seems closer than it is, or farther, or doubled, as if 2 horns are sounding in harmony. There's something primally soothing about the foghorn's rhythm, like a heartbeat, like breathing. The regularity of it creates a kind of meditation. You hear the blast deep and full, and then silence as the sound fades across the water. You wait, counting internally, and then it comes again, right on time, dependable, unwavering. In the fog, when everything else is uncertain, the foghorn provides structure, pattern, a way to measure time and space when your eyes can't help you. People who live near lighthouses often say they stop noticing the foghorn after a while, but they miss it when it's gone. It becomes part of the rhythm of home, a sound that marks foggy mornings and quiet evenings, a voice that reminds them of where they are. Children fall asleep to its distant call. Early risers make coffee while listening to its patient repetition. It's a sound that becomes woven into daily life, as natural as birdsong or rainfall. For lighthouse keepers, fog meant extra work. They had to start the fog signal, maintain it, ensure it never stopped while visibility was poor. Some fog signals required constant attention. Someone manually operating a mechanism or feeding fuel into a boiler. Keepers would work in shifts during long periods of fog, one resting while another tended the horn, both of them surrounded by the deep, rhythmic sound that filled the lighthouse and echoed off the rocks. Modern fog signals are automated, triggered by sensors that detect when visibility drops below a certain threshold. The lighthouse doesn't need a keeper anymore to watch the fog roll in and flip the switch. But the sound remains the same. That deep, resonant blast cutting through the whiteness, calling out across the water saying, "I am here. Be careful. Navigate slowly. You will find your way." When you stand near a lighthouse during fog, the world takes on a dreamlike quality. Everything is muted, softened, as if you're seeing the world through gauze. The ocean becomes a grey presence beyond the rocks, its waves heard but barely seen. Gulls appear as shadows, drifting through the mist. The lighthouse itself may be only partially visible, its tower fading into whiteness above you. And through it all, the foghorn sounds, steady and sure, a voice of certainty in a world gone vague. There's a particular magic to foggy coastal dawns. The light is diffuse, coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. Colours are subdued, blues and greys dominating, with occasional hints of gold where the hidden sun tries to break through. The air feels thick, cool against your skin, smelling of salt and seaweed. And the foghorn calls, a deep note that seems to come from the fog itself, from the very heart of the grey world. Some lighthouses use different types of signals. Diaphones produce a distinctive sound that starts low and ends with a slight upturn, almost like a question. Sirens create a rising and falling wail. Bells, though less common now, produce a clear, ringing tone that carries surprisingly well. Each sound has its own character, its own voice, and experienced sailors can identify not just which lighthouse they're near, but what type of signal system it uses. The foghorn also serves another purpose, one less tangible, but no less important. It offers reassurance. When you're lost in fog, when the world has become featureless and disorienting, hearing that deep, regular blast reminds you that someone or something is keeping watch, that not all navigation requires sight. That sound can guide you when light cannot. The foghorn is a promise that even in the thickest uncertainty, there are still reference points, still ways to find your path. Tonight, as you imagine fog rolling in across a coastal landscape, picture a lighthouse standing firm within it. See the thick mist wrapping around its tower, obscuring everything beyond a few feet. And then, hear the foghorn sound, deep and resonant, a note that seems to vibrate through the fog itself. Feel how that sound creates rhythm, creates pattern, creates a sense of time passing steadily, even when the world has become timeless. Let that rhythm become your rhythm. Let the regular call of the foghorn match your breathing, in and out, steady and sure. And as the fog thickens in your imagination, let it soften your thoughts too, blurring the edges of worry, obscuring the details that don't matter, leaving only the essential, the rhythm of breath and sound, guiding you gently toward rest. For over 2 centuries, lighthouses were not automatic or self-sufficient. They required constant care, and that care came from lighthouse keepers, men and women who chose lives of isolation and dedication to keep the lights burning. Their stories are stories of routine and resilience, of finding peace in solitude, of understanding that small, repeated actions can save lives they'll never know about. A lighthouse keeper's day began before dawn. The first task was always the light, extinguishing it at sunrise, cleaning the lens with careful, methodical precision. Fresnel lenses are made of hundreds of individual prisms, each one needing to be polished until it's perfectly clear, free of salt spray, dust, or the residue from the lamp's smoke. Keepers used soft cloths and gentle solutions, treating the lens like the precious instrument it was. This cleaning could take hours, but it couldn't be rushed. A dirty lens meant a dimmer light, and a dimmer light could mean disaster. After tending the lens, keepers maintained the lamp itself. In the days of oil lamps, this meant trimming wicks to just the right length, refilling reservoirs, adjusting airflow. The lamp had to burn at exactly the right brightness, not too dim, not so bright it consumed fuel too quickly. Keepers became intimately familiar with the rhythm of flame, understanding how humidity affected burning, how wind could cause flickering, how different fuels behaved in different temperatures. Then there was the clockwork mechanism that turned the lens. Many lighthouses used weighted systems similar to grandfather clocks, heavy weights suspended on cables that slowly descended as the lens rotated. Every few hours, keepers had to crank these weights back to the top, winding the mechanism like winding time itself. Some keepers would set their daily schedules by these windings, marking the passage of time to their lighthouse's slow, mechanical breathing. Beyond the light, lighthouses required constant maintenance. Salt air corrodes metal and degrades paint. Keepers spend hours painting, repairing, sealing gaps against wind and water. They maintained fog signals, emergency equipment, supply stores. They kept detailed logs, recording weather conditions, ships sighted, any unusual events. These logs became historical records, documenting storms, shipwrecks, wildlife, the slow accumulation of ordinary days marked by extraordinary vigilance. Life at a lighthouse was deeply rhythmic. Every day followed a similar pattern. Wake, tend the light, maintain the station, watch the sea, tend the light again as evening approached, keep vigil through the night. This routine might sound monotonous, but many keepers found profound peace in it. There was clarity in knowing exactly what needed to be done, in performing essential work with precision and care. Isolation varied depending on the lighthouse's location. Coastal stations might be within walking distance of a town, allowing keepers some connection to community. Island lighthouses were far more remote, accessible only by boat when weather permitted. Some keepers went weeks without seeing another person, living entirely within the world of lighthouse, rocks, and sea. In these places, solitude became total, absolute. a presence as constant as the light itself. Yet keepers rarely describe their isolation as loneliness. Instead, they speak of quietness, of connection to rhythms larger than human conversation. They watch the ocean's moods, learning to read incoming weather from wave patterns and cloud formations. They observed wildlife, seabirds nesting on cliffs, seals hauling out on rocks, whales passing on seasonal migrations. They lived within nature's calendar, marking time not by dates, but by the arrival and departure of birds, the changing angle of sunlight, the temperature of wind. Many keepers kept personal routines within their professional ones. Gardens when soil and weather permitted, woodworking or model building during long winter evenings, reading, often voraciously, working through whatever books they could acquire, letter writing, maintaining correspondence with family, friends, or other keepers at distant lighthouses, music, either listening to phonographs or playing instruments, filling the lighthouse with sound other than wind and waves. Families sometimes lived at lighthouses too. Keepers' spouses and children adapting to the unique life. Children growing up with the sea as playground and classroom, learning tides and weather the way city children learn streets and traffic. These families developed deep bonds, relying on each other for companionship, entertainment, education. They celebrated holidays together in isolation, creating traditions shaped by their environment. Christmas marked by storms, birthdays by particular sea conditions or visiting ships. The keeper's vigil was especially profound during storms. While others sought shelter, keepers climbed their towers, ensuring the light continued burning exactly when it was needed most. They watched ships struggle through heavy seas, sometimes seeing vessels founder on rocks despite the light's warning. These were the hardest nights, watching helplessness, knowing that all they could do was keep the light steady and hope it was enough. But there were also moments of incredible reward. Ships passing safely through dangerous waters, grateful captains sounding their horns in acknowledgement, occasional visits from mariners who wanted to thank the keeper personally for guidance received on a treacherous night. These moments validated the vigil, reminding keepers that their isolation served a purpose, that their dedication mattered beyond the walls of their lonely tower. Some keepers served for decades at the same lighthouse, becoming so attuned to it that they could sense changes in wind or sea by how the building moved, by subtle sounds in its structure. They knew every stone, every step, every quirk of their light and foghorn. The lighthouse became an extension of themselves, and they became its voice, its hands, its faithful guardian. As automation arrived in the mid-20th century, the era of lighthouse keepers gradually ended. Machines could tend lights, sensors could trigger fog signals, solar panels could provide power. The keepers were no longer needed, and one by one, lighthouses became automatic, their human inhabitants departing for the last time. Many keepers left reluctantly. They understood progress, but they also understood loss. A lighthouse without a keeper is still functional, but it's no longer a home, no longer a place where human dedication meets natural force. The lights still turn, the foghorns still sound, but something intangible departed with the keepers, some quality of care, of presence, of witness. Yet the keeper's spirit remains in every lighthouse, in the polished lenses, in the painted walls, in the careful construction that has weathered decades of storms. Every lighthouse that still stands is a testament to the keepers who tended it, who chose lives of solitude and service, who kept lights burning through countless dark nights. Tonight, as you imagine a lighthouse keeper climbing the spiral stairs one last time before sleep, carrying a small lamp to light the way, think about the kind of peace that comes from knowing your work matters, from performing simple tasks with care and precision, from living within rhythms larger than yourself, aligned with tides and seasons and the steady rotation of light. Let yourself find that keeper's peace, that sense of purpose fulfilled, of vigilance maintained, of rest earned through the quiet satisfaction of essential work completed. And as you drift towards sleep, imagine the keeper reaching their quarters, the light above continuing its faithful rotation, the sea breathing its eternal rhythm below, everything in its place, everything as it should be. The vigil kept, the watch maintained, peace settling over the lighthouse like fog, gentle and complete. As night deepens and the world grows still, lighthouses continue their patient work. They don't rest, they don't waver, they simply turn, their lights sweeping across the darkness with the same steady rhythm they've maintained for hours, days, years. There's something deeply comforting about this constancy, this presence that asks nothing and gives everything, this light that keeps watch while the world sleeps. Standing on a shore at night, watching a distant lighthouse, you become aware of just how small you are, and somehow how safe that smallness makes you feel. The lighthouse doesn't know you're there. It doesn't change its rhythm for you, yet its light finds you anyway, sweeping past in its steady arc, including you in its circle of care without judgment or expectation. You are simply one more thing beneath its light, held within its patient vigil. The beam passes over rocks that have been there for millennia, over waters that have carried countless vessels, over shores where generations have walked. It illuminates everything equally, playing no favorites, making no distinctions. Dangerous reef and safe passage, empty water and passing ship, all receive the same treatment, the same regular sweep of light, the same wordless message. This is here. Now you know. Navigate accordingly. In this way, lighthouses teach a kind of democratic watchfulness. They exist for whoever needs them, asking nothing in return. A millionaire's yacht and a fisherman's boat receive identical guidance. The light doesn't care about the size of your vessel or the importance of your journey. It only cares that you find your way safely. As the night deepens, fewer ships may be visible, but the lighthouse continues unchanged. This is perhaps when its presence becomes most profound. It keeps watch even when no one seems to need it, understanding that readiness itself is a form of service. The empty sea is still a sea that might suddenly fill with vessels. The quiet night is still a night that might turn stormy. The lighthouse remains alert through it all, patient and prepared. The rhythm of the light creates a kind of meditation for anyone who watches. Flash, pause, flash, pause. The regularity becomes hypnotic, a visual equivalent of breathing, of heartbeat, of tides. You can match your breath to it, inhaling as the light approaches, exhaling as it sweeps away. You can let your thoughts follow the same pattern, arriving and departing with each flash, appearing briefly in consciousness before fading back into darkness. Inside the lamp room, the lens continues its rotation, massive and delicate at once, tons of glass and metal moving with perfect balance. If you could be there, you'd hear the quiet mechanism of its turning, a soft whir or click, the gentle sound of precision maintained across decades. You'd see the lamp at the center, glowing steadily, its light multiplied and directed by the prisms around it, transformed from a simple glow into a powerful beam that reaches miles across the water. The lens itself becomes a work of art when it turns. The prisms catch the light at different angles, creating shifting patterns, brief rainbows, moments where the glass seems to glow from within. It's like watching a slow-moving chandelier, elegant and purposeful, beautiful not despite its function but because of it. Form and purpose united into something that serves and inspires at once. Outside, the weather may change. Clouds may gather or disperse. Rain may fall. Fog may roll in. The lighthouse responds to these changes not by altering its fundamental nature, but by adding what's needed. The fog signals sounds. The light perhaps burns brighter, but the rhythm remains constant, the commitment unchanged. Weather is temporary. The vigil is permanent. As dawn begins to approach, though it's still hours away, the lighthouse keeps turning. It doesn't anticipate the sunrise or prepare to rest. It simply continues, moment by moment, rotation by rotation. This is the essence of its nature, not to work toward an ending, but to exist in perpetual present, always ready, always watching, always there. For those on shore, the lighthouse becomes a companion to the night. It marks time without counting it. It provides orientation without directing. It offers comfort without demanding acknowledgement. Simply by existing, by continuing, by keeping its steady watch, it makes the darkness less absolute, the night less empty, solitude less lonely. Perhaps this is what we seek when we're drawn to lighthouses, this sense of something reliable in an unreliable world, something that maintains its purpose regardless of circumstances, something that watches while we rest. We spend our lives navigating uncertainty, adjusting to change, trying to find our way through waters that constantly shift. The lighthouse stands as evidence that some things can remain steady, that faithfulness is possible, that light can persist even in the deepest darkness. As you imagine this lighthouse now, standing on its distant shore, let its light sweep over you one more time. See the beam approach from the darkness, growing brighter as it nears, passing over you with its steady glow, then continuing on its path across the water. Feel how brief that moment is and how eternal. The light will return. It always returns. Its rhythm is unbreakable, its commitment absolute. Let this image remain as you begin to drift. A lighthouse standing firm, its light turning steadily, the dark water around it breathing with slow waves, the night sky above, vast and patient, and you safe on the shore, held within the circle of its care, included in its eternal watch. You don't need to stay awake to be protected by the light. You can sleep now, deeply and completely, trusting that the lighthouse will continue its vigil. It will turn through the remaining hours of darkness. It will guide whatever vessels need guidance. It will keep watch while you rest. This is its purpose. This is its gift. And so, let your eyes close. Let your breathing slow to match the rhythm you've been following. The steady pulse of light across darkness. The patient turning that never hurries, never stops. Let your body grow as still as the rocks beneath the lighthouse, solid and heavy and at peace. The light continues without you. The watch is maintained. The night is safe. And you, released from your own vigil, can finally, completely rest. The beam sweeps past one more time. and another, and another, each pass growing dimmer in your awareness as sleep draws you deeper, until the light becomes part of your dreams, becomes the gentle rhythm of safety that carries you through the night, steady, faithful, eternal. The lighthouse keeps its watch, and you keep yours no longer. Sleep now. The vigil is covered. The light will guide you through.